Good morning, civics students. This is Mr. Burns, and I'm here to have this video tutorial to explain to you the public service announcement project, or your end-of-year culminating project for civics and economics in 8th grade. And your project is to do this public service announcement called Why is Voting Important? So I'm going to read the overview and go over the details of this project with you, as well as the grading rubric. And you can always come back and watch this video if you are confused. So the overview says voting is one of the most important civic responsibilities as the defining feature of democracy. Yet a majority of registered voters do not vote in off-year elections. According to the Virginia Department of Elections in 2019, just 42% of registered voters in Virginia participated in the state and local elections. And that was a record year. Under half of the registered voters in Virginia are completing their civic responsibility. You may assume the role of a concerned citizen as an individual or a member leader of an interest group. Your goal is to increase voter turnout in the off-year election in 2021. So the essential driving question for this letter that you're going to write is, how can you as a community member convince registered voters to turn out for off-year elections? I'll go over the rubric at the end. So your final product is going to be a letter that you're going to write, a public service announcement that includes evidence from at least 3 primary or secondary sources. I have here the calendar of what we're going to do. You might be watching this on a different day, but there's the schedule for 2021 school year. All right, so what you're going to do first is you are going to do a little bit of research and fill out this graphic organizer, the planning sheet. And you're going to answer these questions. The first one is, which First Amendment freedoms will you use to generate community support? Explain your answer for each choice. So we have RAPs, those are your 5 different First Amendment freedoms, and you can choose any 2 of those 5 and explain why you would use that. You can use this presentation here that's linked for additional information. The second thing you're going to do is you're going to describe which state level or Virginia officials are elected next November and their responsibilities. This is November 2021. And you can use these websites to add these 4 positions for Virginia government. The third question is going to ask you to describe the requirements to register and vote in Virginia. And we link some links to some different websites, as well as a presentation here. And your requirements to vote and how to register to vote you can list right here. The next thing you will do is, this is really these 2 columns here, these 2 rows, excuse me. Describe how voting helps the community and serves the public good. So what you're going to do is kind of look at some of these resources or do your own internet research. If you do just these, that would be enough. But you can go above and beyond and try to find more. There's a couple of videos, some infographics, and some articles that you can kind of scan over. And then use, copy the link citation right here. And then in these bulleted information, you can type in your your details that you learned. Add as many bullets as necessary for each citation. Okay? So if you need to continue, you can use that. If you want to add a 4th citation, you can do that as well. Okay, so you're going to put this is going to be where you put, I would say, your research that you're going to do. It's really minimal research. It's not extensive. You're looking at some website, reading some articles, coming up with some ideas of why voting is important, especially in off-year elections. And that's what these articles target, is that idea. And then your project is the last thing you have to do. Hopefully on day 1, you can finish all that stuff. And then on day 2 or day 3, you can finish up your letter. So your role is going to, again, you're a member of a community, you care deeply about your community, you want to make it the best it can be. Audience is not everyone in your community has time or desire to become involved in the election process. They think local issues are important and not only choose to vote in only choose to vote in presidential election years. Your format is you're going to write a letter to be published in the editorial section of the local newspaper in the following format. So I put the format. So your introduction, you're going to introduce yourself and the topic of why this is important to vote in non-election years. Kind of just a couple brief details, a few sentences. Body paragraph number 1, you're going to provide background from the civics curriculum. Okay, First Amendment, requirements to vote, register to vote. You don't really need to cite those sources as much. Those are more factually learned in civics. The second one, discuss the 2021 election cycle in Virginia and like who's voting, who you're voting for. Okay, those 4 positions I talked about in the beginning, and why this is relevant. So you might need to do a little research and a little bit of citations there. And then in the third body paragraph, okay, use the information you researched to answer the guiding question, to convince or persuade people to vote in this election. So that would be kind of all the information maybe you found in this area right here. It would be in the third body paragraph. As long as you're putting your citations here, you don't need to add your citations to your letter. Okay? And then the conclusion is summarize your letter and end with a positive, hopeful statement about the importance of exercising the right and responsibility to vote in elections. All right, I wrote the topic and guiding question there again just for you to have. So you would write your letter down in this part here. Again, it's going to be 5 paragraphs. You might want to write Dear Community to start. You sign it, Concerned Citizen, and put your name, something like that. So you include a greeting, a salutation, a signature at the end. And here's the rubric, and it's 24 points. And if you do all these things, if you are doing your research, you fill out your graphic organizer, you write your letter, you follow that format, you'll get probably an A on this project. So, accuracy, informed arguments, are you looking at the data? Are you organizing your information into that 5-paragraph response? Are you looking at valid sources? And are you determining causes and effects of voting and not voting? It's not the most difficult assignment to end the year. I think it's worthy, and I think it's focused on an important topic, especially with 2021 coming up, where we don't have a presidential election, but we do have other important elections at the state and local level. All right, if you have any questions about the rubric is attached right here, so you can always access it right there. If you have questions about the resources, make sure you ask me during class. And if you have questions about the format as well and what to include, length requirements, just make sure you fully answer the question. Each paragraph should only be a few sentences. It shouldn't be much more than 3 or 4 sentences per paragraph, and you should be able to answer those questions successfully. So the letter should be able to fit probably on 1 page, maybe a page and a half of this Google document. All right, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope this was helpful.